Hello Year 6 and welcome to Tuesday's literacy lesson. Hope you all enjoyed our literacy yesterday, which was writing. So today is Tuesday, so on Tuesday and Thursday we will be doing reading. So today is a reading lesson, so you will need your reading book today. But before we get started, I just want to do a little bit on your spellings. Okay, so you've got your spellings for this week. I know we've been on EdShed and some of you might have had a practice on letter join. But today I just want to do a little bit of an activity to practice your spellings. So I've got a link for you that I will send out, but you might not need it because some of you might have a dice at home from a game. So you need a dice today. If you haven't got one or you can't find one, if you follow this link and I'll send it on to Marvellous Me, and you might prefer to do this, it's up to you. So you might have a dice from a game, but this one is an online dice. So it says at the top to use 1 or 2, 3 dice. You need to use just one dice and then you can roll the dice. So I'm on 3. Now I'm on 2. And you can select it to roll one dice. There we go. Okay, so you just need to select it to roll one dice and then you'll be able to roll the dice. And then on here, so you'll need to pause it. There's different things that I want you to do. So number 1 is write a silly sentence. Okay, so you might roll it and get one of your spellings and put it into a silly sentence. Write it with your other hand. Number 2 is the definition. So find the definition of the spelling and write that. Number 3 is write it with your other hand. What I mean is write it with the hand that you don't write with. So if you are right-handed, you write it with your left. If you are left-handed, you write it with your right. Number 4 is to pick some fancy letters to write it in. Number 5, write it using bubble writing. And number 6, write it twice. So once in uppercase letters, so that's capitals, and once in lowercase letters. So not capitals, the lowercase ones. So in a minute, I want you to pause the video and have a little practice of your spellings. Like I say, you might need to go off and get a dice or you might choose to use the online one. And pause the video and have a little go practicing your spellings this morning. Okay, so I will step to the side and the light adjust and you can pause it now. Okay, so you should have had a little practice at your spellings now. So today, like I say, is reading. And lots of these questions today are on the purpose of a text. So why the author has chosen to do certain things in this text. Okay, so it is your Year 6 reading booklet and it's page 10. And it looks like this. It's called The Yellow Train. Okay, it's this one. So on page 10 and your questions are on page 11. Okay, so as I said, the main thing we're going to focus on today to discuss is the ones that are about the purpose. You've got other questions in there, but it's ones that I know you know how to answer because we've covered them before. So there's a figurative language one about similes, metaphors, personification, that kind of thing. And we've done lots of that, so I know you'll be fine with that one. What I want to discuss is the ones about purpose. So it's the purpose of the text, but also what purpose there is of the decisions the writer has made. Okay, so I'm going to just touch on a couple of the questions because some of them are a little bit tricky. So the first thing I want you to do, though, there's quite a lot of vocabulary in here that you might not be familiar with. Okay, so the first job today is to go onto dictionary.com and to look up some of these words. Okay, because you'll need them before you start because they're in the text and you need to know what they mean when you come across them. So if I just do a couple of examples, so as always, if you go onto dictionary.com, so if you go onto dictionary.com and then you can type in the word here. So the first one so there's convoluted. So type it into the box and then look it up. Okay, so that means twisted or coiled. So it's twisting around. Okay, so then you might look up another one. So you've got tumultuous. Okay, and go onto the dictionary. the letter out. Okay, so this means full of tumult or riotousness. So it's like a disturbance or a big commotion, or it's a lot of noise or a riot or something going on. So you can look up each of these words. You might find some other words that you want to look up. These are the ones that I picked out that I think you should have a look at. But as you read through your text, see if there's any others that you're not sure of and make sure you look them up, because before you can answer the questions, you need to understand all of the text. So your first job is to find all of these words in the dictionary, plus any others that you think you might need to look up, and be sure of the definition. The other important thing when you've looked at the definition is to look how it's used in the sentence to make sure, yeah, I know what that means. I know what it means now by that word. So that you're sure, because sometimes the definition might have a couple of options, exactly what the word means. So your first job in your purple book is to jot down your definitions to these words. Okay, so we should have had a good go at that now. So like I said, we're focusing on purpose today, why a writer has chosen certain language or certain phrases to use in the text. So the first question then, in your comprehension today picks out a phrase. So it's picked out this phrase, trip through time. And then in the question, it asks you, why does the author describe the train journey as a trip through time? And it tells you, remember, it's really important, it tells you it's on line 2, so that you make sure that you are using the correct part of the text. So if I go to line 2, so here it says, the little yellow train of the Eastern Pyrenees is a magical trip through time and space. So it says it there, through time and space. Now, I'm going to read the rest of the paragraph to see if that can help me. So I'm going to do this first one with you, because that'll help you with the other purpose ones. Define both, which has been defined both with daring engineering and merry toot-toots of its whistle for more than a century. Now, that tells me that this train, so a century is 100 years long, so it tells me that it's been around for a long time, okay? So I think the author, so when I go back to that phrase that's been picked out, so why is it described as a trip through time? So and then in the text, it actually says that it's through time and space. So it's not only going through a part of the world, but it's also as if it's taking you on a trip back in time, because it's been there for a long time. So I'm going to answer this question. So it is described like this because it has been there for over a century. So the passengers are experiencing history. Okay, so they're not only going on a journey through the land, they're also going through on a historical journey, and they'll learn lots about history as well. So it's like they're going through time too. So your next question is really similar to that one. It picks out a phrase, so a symphony of nature. So you've looked up the word symphony, so you should know what that means. And then it asks you, pop onto here. So it asks you, why do you think the author chose that phrase from line 23? Okay, so here that it talks about it. So a grand sweeping symphony of nature. Okay, and then it asks you why it's chosen that. So straight away the strategy, like I did, read the rest of the paragraph. Read all around it and read what it talks about. So here it's got convoluted banks snaking up to barren peaks. So all of these things here, I'd go back to here, slopes, rockets poised to take off the heavens. So read all around it. Think about what you've learned about what the symphony is and what it's built up to. Okay, so and think about all of those things all together to think about why the author might have described it as a symphony of nature. Okay, so if we quickly, I'm just going to look up symphony with you. So a symphony is an elaborate musical composition. So with in 3 or more movements. So it's lots of things coming together. So think about that when you think about why the author might have described this journey as lots of things coming together. Make sure you use the text to support your answer. Okay, so that one's really important to use the text. Okay. Just going to look at a couple more with you. So the next question that I want to look at talks about the purpose of the text. So this one, so you've got some choices here, which describes the purpose of the text. So you've got 4 choices, whether it's to argue, to instruct, to inform or discuss. So that's the easy bit. Think about what it does. And then explain your answer. So why do you think that? So whichever one you've chosen, why do you think that? Okay, so make sure you answer this one really carefully. So you can circle this one, but make sure you answer why. So don't just circle any, think about why you've circled that one. Okay, so that's the purpose of the text. And then the next one that I want to look at with you is also to do with the purpose. So it asks you, and you might need to go and perhaps you might want to look on Newsround or you might have a newspaper at home. If it's the same as similar or different to other newspaper articles that you have read, but then you've got to explain your answer, okay? So have a think about other newspaper articles that you have read or news you've seen on the television or anything. And then what I've done is I've put up here the purpose of a newspaper report. So it gives information, it provides facts, but it provides opinions, but usually from somebody else. So it'll put them in as a quote. It gives you current news. Some articles, though, are there to entertain as well. So sometimes in a newspaper, you might have a section about fashion or sport or travel. Okay, so have a think, but think about ones that you have read. Is it similar? Has it got the same kind of things, or is it different? So if it's similar, make sure you pick out something from the text that shows that it is similar to something else you have read. Or if it's different, so for example, I might say, oh, I think this one's different because it's very descriptive. And then I might give some example of description, whereas normally I'm used to reading newspapers that give facts. Okay, so a tricky one there as well to have a think about. Okay, so then finally, you have got your last question, and we've done lots like this. So did it make you want to ride on the yellow train? But then the really important bit, explain. So did you want to ride on it? Okay, so that's a yes or no. But then the second bit, because it says, or because in the text, this made me want to ride it, or because in the text it says this and I really don't fancy that. Okay, so really important. We've done lots of questions like this. It is a yes or no, whether you want to ride it or not. But the important bit to get that get those 2 marks is to explain why using evidence. So the reason why and some evidence from the text that shows that. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this reading today, and I shall see you tomorrow for writing.